But there are some interesting moments in the story, so don't be scared.
So
Yeah,
we're going to
it's like a
start.
kid's story. Yeah, I said it by my Messiah Shabbos. It's like one of those stories that really will capture the kids' attention, and they'll be like,
So yesterday Shabbat was the 9th of Kislev, which is it's the birth, the day of birth, and also of the passing of the Metziller Rebbe. And simultaneously, but Mila, I don't know what the connection is between that and the idea that it's the ninth month, the ninth day of
right.
the month, the ninth hour of the month for 9 minutes is known as an Esratzon. And I just had time to put it on the WhatsApp group in time for people in America to do it, not really for anybody in South Africa or
Sorry, but
Israel.
Rabbi Braun spoke really sharply against it last night at the Farbrengen in 770.
Really?
Oh, really? Why?
He said we don't need scholars from the outside.
Okay. So it's from Reb Chaim of Vital. So I don't consider Reb Chaim of Vital to be outside.
Interesting.
Yeah, I actually looked into it, Nuria, and
Yeah.
here what I found. I actually made a little post. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it was actually, it's one of the early Mekubalim. I looked it up. Who was it? And his name is Reb Avram ben Yitzchak of Granada. Okay. He brings it in his Sefer Bris Menucha. Right, I actually found the actual quotes. The ninth hour is the time of joy, blessing, and happiness. The ninth year of the Yoel cycle is a chosen year. The ninth month is one of the finest months and a month of favor. The ninth day is the month of the most select of the days of that month. And the ninth hour of the day is the best and most select of all the hours of the day. And that was also supported by Reb Chaim Vital. So the original is one of the early Mekubalim is Reb Avram ben Yitzchak Migranada. So I guess it's more of a Sephardish, you know. But yeah, I mean, obviously, not that I'm, choilek on what the Rav is saying, but it's one of those, segulas that it's interesting that the Middle Rebbe is actually born on that
right.
day.
That's what
And what came to my mind, is that there's a very interesting story, not the story that I wanted to share, but the story of the birth of the Middle Rebbe, where it's actually the story was revealed to us when the Middle Rebbe's daughter got married to the grandson of Reb Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev. That's famous wedding in Zlobin, right? Everybody's familiar where the Alter Rebbe and Reb Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev married grandchildren. But that was through the Middle Rebbe. That was Middle Rebbe's daughter. And by that story, which is a whole story on its own, maybe I should tell the story. Okay, the story goes like this. There was a wedding preparations, and obviously, the Kala, they came to the Kala because it was in Zlobin. That's where probably there was a closest city. I'm not sure if the Kala actually lived there, or they decided to do a wedding there. And here, Alter Rebbe and Mittel Rebbe are arriving, and Alter Rebbe asks Mittel Rebbe to go and visit Reb Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev. And Mittel Rebbe is very hesitant. The Alter Rebbe speaks with him, no, go. And he agrees to go. He walks in, and Reb Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev right away started attacking the Mittel Rebbe about how dare he is spread Chassidus to such extent. Mittel Rebbe probably was around 42 by then, so he was not like, a young man, but still, knowing the constitution of the fragile constitution of Mittel Rebbe, he was like taken back, and it was like, and he literally ran away from him. So he runs back to the Alter Rebbe, to his tati. It's like, okay, I'm not going there. It's like, what happened? He's like, he started attacking me. He says, you know what? I'll come with you. So now Alter Rebbe and Mittel Rebbe are going together with Reb Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev. So they go together, they enter the room, and the Alter Rebbe now, as an equal in a way, speaks to Reb Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev and says, why don't you like my Berla? Why don't you like my son? He says, no, chas v'shalom. It's not that I don't like your son, but he is spreading Chassidus too much, and he didn't even see the face of our holy Rabbi Baal Shem Tov. So he says, first of all, he teaches from me, like he's continuing what my teaching is. And also, you should know that I saw the face of the Baal Shem Tov. And we know that famous story when he was Upshanish, the Baal Shem Tov cut his hair. So, and besides the fact that was already after the Petersburg, right? And we know from that story that the Baal Shem Tov and the Mezrich Maggid both came to physically visit the Alter Rebbe. And so that was that. And then he says, okay. He says, he says, so why is he spreading Chassidus so much? Reb Levi Yitzchak asked him. He says, well, because he's a Gilgul of Reb Himnuna Saba. Okay. And when he was born, I truly wanted to name him Himnuna. Alter Rebbe is saying now about the Mittel Rebbe. But because of the request of the Maggid, I named him Dovber after the Maggid. So now, hearing this news, Reb Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev got very, very emotional, had a lot of his pilos, and he says, oh, if so, he's like Reb Himnuna Saba. So let him say Chassidus. And Mittel Rebbe had no choice because Alter Rebbe was like, no, he was pressed to say Chassidus. So Mittel Rebbe started revealing, I guess it got into the mood, and he started revealing a lot of concepts that were never revealed in the world before from Kabbalah. Now, that brought such an interesting excitement of Reb Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev that he got so excited that he took off his talis and he covered the Mittel Rebbe. So Malachim should not have Ein Har on him. So now they became friends, apparently. So he liked him. That's it. Meaning the questions about why is he revealing so much Chassidus was kind of like taken care of, like for some reason. So now later on, I looked into this. Who is this Rabbi Himnuna Saba that the Mittel Rebbe is a Gilgul of? He actually buried right behind Rashbi in a very interesting cave. I'll share the photos. I have it somewhere saved. It's really, really interesting. Really, really interesting. So he was the one who really knew the secrets of Shema, the guy, and he was revealing like da-da-da. So I guess there's no wonder why, the whole of Shari Yichud is around the Shema. And I guess, this is the opportune time. We also see by the Mittel Rebbe that he was born and he passed away on the same day. That shows like a completion, like Moshe Rabbeinu was also born and passed away on the same day. And by him, it was literally open. Every avoid of the tzaddik is complete. But by the Mittel Rebbe, we see that it's actually manifested in the actual, the way, his Elokus took place. So, yeah. So then after that whole meeting, three of the tzaddikim had to go out of the door, wherever they were. Now, Reb Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev became, fell so much in love with the Mittel Rebbe that he said, you should go first. Now, Mittel Rebbe said, I will not go first. Let my father go first, because the kid's not going to walk in front of his father. And his father said, no, I cannot go first. Let Rabbi Yitzchak go first because he's the mechutan. So all the three tzaddikim were figuring out who was going to go out first. So Chassidim saw that there'd been some kind of, debate going on there. So they took off the whole door and widened the pathway. So three tzaddikim went out at the same time. It's a cute story. Besides as being, But yeah, so yeah, from this we really know that, the Mitzvah Rebbe was really coming from, a very, very interesting, deep spiritual source. So how does it answer? I guess this whole 9999. I wouldn't be surprised if the Mitzvah Rebbe actually was born during these 9 minutes. Actually, I was looking for it. I was like, whoa, that's like intense.
I
So I
wanted to
guess
correct what I said that the Rav said. So maybe the Rav was referring, he said, like, what do we need these Geisha customs for, etc. Maybe he was referring to Thanksgiving.
Geisha?
Okay, so maybe he was referring to Thanksgiving. That's why. I would have to listen to his speech again. He said it fast, he said it in Yiddish. So maybe he was referring to Thanksgiving. I think a lot of people wrote him and said,
this is coming from a very, very, kosher source.
Right. Okay, fine. So forget what I said.
They are, those that have this schlissel chalas, and then, buying, a knife on Erev Rosh Hashanah, and, whatever.
All right. So can we get back to the text? We ready to go back to our text, Mila?
Yeah.
Right.
Let's go back to it. I wanted to tell a different story, but I guess
that was the story.
That was the story, yeah.
The story. All right. So let me just share an image that we put together for you. Okay. So this is what we've been dealing with in paragraph 7 and 8 the last couple of weeks. We're really looking at two types of hashpa'ah. One was shefa and the other is or. And we spoke about how shefa is yesh yesh. This was in paragraph 7. And we looked at physical shefa, which is yesh yesh gashmi, and then the more spiritual shefa, which was yesh yesh ruchni. So yesh yesh gashmi was like money or water, where there's an actual change in the mashpia. Like you have money, you give it to somebody, you don't have the money anymore. The spiritual shefa, the way that we experience it in this physical world, the example was the teacher and the student, where the teacher doesn't actually lose their seichel. They give over an illumination of their seichel to the student. But there is a limitation in that the teacher, at the time while he's teaching, has to be engaged with that particular student. So there is still yesh yesh there. Then last week we looked at paragraph 8, where we're starting to look at the way that light works as opposed to shefa. And the light is yesh ayin. And the example that we were looking at was sunlight. And we went into some detail about how the light can shine in 2 different windows and take on 2 different shades. And that the same light can be in many places at once, not just in one place. And that's because in its source, the ray is nullified. The ray of the sun it's not a limited yesh in its source. And the only time that it appears as a yesh is to the Mekabel. The Mekabel sees it in a particular way. So we talked about if you have a green window or a blue window, that's how you're going to see the light, but nothing actually changes in the light itself. The change is only according to the Mekabel. So that's really what we're looking at. And today we're going to look at paragraph 9, where it goes into more detail about the light. But before we do that, we want to break up into groups so that you can review paragraph 8 together. So I'm just going to record. All right. Okay, so let's just get some very quick feedback. You know, I was just saying to Mila, I don't know if it's a very low level of question, but for me, you know, there's kind of an unconscious question of, you know, how can Hashem be completely with me and also be completely with billions of people all over the world? Like, how is that possible? Whether I think about that consciously or it's sitting there, you know. And I think that the mashal that we learned in paragraph 8 that you just looked into, it's really telling us like, oh, but you know, you even have a physical mashal, a simple physical mashal in the world of Gashmiut that shows us that even in the world of Gashmiut, that's possible. Because the sun can shine equally in Eretz Israel and in America. You know, it can be everywhere. So I don't know, for me, you know, coming across this paragraph it answers a lot of those kind of unconscious questions. And I think he calls those questions the questions of the philosophers, like the questions that we have in our brain that may be articulated or not. So I just want to get some quick feedback from you guys. Like, what's
Can I say something, Nuria?
Yeah, sure.
So when you're talking about examples, you know, or dugmot, I mean, if you just think about the brain is connected to every single cell in your body. I mean, how does it know exactly what's going on everywhere? You understand what I'm saying? The connection to what you said?
Right. So you're saying that's another example.
Yeah, the nerves, I mean.
Everything is, but we don't, you know, that's already is, yeah, okay. It's another good example. So
that's actually one of the
mashalim. Right.
Not the brain itself, but the soul, right? How it's enlivened.
How the body is enlivened with the soul. Yeah. Okay, anybody want to give some quick feedback on what you were learning? Yoni, you want to say something? No? Is it?
I want to say something, but it's not. It's the paragraph I was thinking about. The sun is beautiful, but it touches everything on the outside. If a person has chelek elokai mimal mamish, I think that's what connects us to Hashem, each of us in our own way. So in that respect, it's a little different than the sun. You get what I'm saying? The sun is like an external thing. It's a wonderful example, but it's not in us. Chelek elokai is. Each of us has that spark of Hashem inside of us.
Right. So it's important that you are noticing these things because there is absolutely no mashal, right? That's going to completely cover all the aspects of the nimshal. For this reason, we have many mashalim because every mashal covers a particular facet of the nimshal. Okay. Sun, for example, right, covers a certain aspect, an aspect of not being caught up in the process. That was very, very important for us to eliminate, and that's why it's, you know, very famous mashal. We want to make sure that we understand that Hashem is not caught up in the process, because that was one of the problems, right? One of the questions of the philosophers, right? They wanted to understand how is that Hashem capable of sustaining all of a creation and yet not being affected by the creation. Meaning the creation, bichlal lo tofes makom. It doesn't hold any space in him. How is that a possibility? So that's why the mashal of the sunlight, okay, is like, listen, a sun is shining and that's it. It's shining on all of earth. And whatever you accept, you accept. Whatever you accept, you don't accept. Like, it's just the way it is. Okay, it has no limitation. And we want to study this mashal, right? But that it doesn't cover, as you say, all the aspects, right? Because first of all, number one, the sun doesn't create anything. The light of Hashem is creating something, okay? Like you're saying, the light of Hashem, the sun only covers externally, but doesn't actually penetrate. Well, to some extent with plants, it does penetrate the plants and it does penetrate through the skin. And that's why we have certain processes going on, vitamin D, photosynthesis, right? And all that stuff. But at the same time, it's two separate things, right? Sun and the creation. You're right. So that's very good that you're asking these questions, because we all the time going to go back from the mashal to the nimshal to see in which ways it is similar. And in each ways, the mashal has a deficit to explain. That's why we have many mashal. So we could layer them one on top of each other and create, and that's how we're going to apply it to the nimshal. Okay? It's like, imagine we had this interesting toy, and I don't know, I lost it during our moves. It was actually from Eretz Yisrael. It's how to create a face. Okay, so imagine there was just a base, like it was just like a round shaped situation, okay? And that there were clear square things that, for example, had just a nose, and the other one has just a mouth, and the other had just the eye, and the other one had just the eyelashes, and the third one had just the eyebrows, and the fourth one had the ears, okay? And you teach a child about the face, okay? And then he just puts inside that round situation different layers, and they all see through. So it doesn't matter if a mouth goes first, a mouth is going to be the last. He still creates a face. You understand what I'm talking about? It's a very, for me, I held on to this, and I really brought it to most of my classes, just to show, to understand the idea of layers and to understand the idea of transparency. Okay? And it's perfect for this. Every mashal is going to give us one body part in a way. Okay? And then you put layer after layer after layer, and all of a sudden you see a face. Right? So the same thing is with a nimshal. Every mashal is going to give one aspect, or maybe two aspects, and maybe five aspects. Okay? But it will never give all of the aspects. Okay? And only through the hisbonenus into all the mashalim will come to a certain completion, a certain understanding, and saying like, oh, now I understand. Okay. It makes sense. Okay.
So that's why in paragraph 8, he brought this contrast between the teacher and the pupil and the way that the light works, so that you should understand very clearly the one point that he's trying to make, which is that, you know, unlike the teacher who has to be caught up with the pupil at that time, Hashem is not caught up, just like the sun is not caught up in one particular place at any time. So that was important to see within the paragraph, that contrast, and also some other details. Okay, Mila, let's go forward.
Okay. Amazing. So let's move on. Here we go. Okay, if we will finish this quickly, I'll tell you a story. It's a story that I initially wanted to tell. Okay. Paragraph 9. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back into the nimshal, right? What are we comparing all this into? Let's go. Okay, v'hanimshal mizeh lemala muvan be'inyan hashpa'as chayes Elokus ba'olamais. Okay, and the application, the nimshal of this above in the spiritual world is understood regarding the flow of divine life force into the world. Okay, so now when we wanted to understand the two levels of shefa, okay, this is hashefa that we're talking about. Again, what are we studying? The subject matter is regarding the flow of the divine life force into the world. Okay, we want to understand how that works. Sheba shefa hazois me'ayin yesh. That this flow comes from ayin into yesh. Okay, and v'yesh b'ze base pirushim, right? And it has kind of like two aspects, two explanations to it. Harishain, the first explanation. Shamshacha nimshacha mebechinas shu ayin v'kala. The first aspect, that the drawing down, the origin, is from a level that is complete ayin and nothingness. Okay, meaning it's coming from a place where it's literally nothing. For example, is a tree compared to be to something nothing? No, it's not, because a tree comes from a seed. So there is something already there. Oh well, compared to the tree, the seed is really nothing, because some seeds are like really like a dot, and it grows into this whole big tree. But it's still something. Okay, when we think about ayin, it's literally nothing. There's absolutely nothing. It's only a pure potential, and all of a sudden, that's where it originates. היינו מבחינת אור וזיו האלוקי, שהוא עין ואפץ מצד שנכלל ובטל בעצם המאוס. Meaning, from the level of divine light and radiance, which is ayin and nullity, because it is included and nullified within the very essence, right? Meaning it absolutely has no existence on its own. Okay, that's one premise. It's very, very essential premise. Okay, v'hasheni, and the second one, shegam ha'or v'haziv nitztamtzem v'nitalem legamre mikol v'kol. Second, and even that the light and the radiance were contracted, meaning there was a tzimtzum, and completely concealed in every way, v'hu inyan rikanyut ha'or, and this concept of the emptiness of the light, we're going to soon discuss what that is, right? Meaning, even if the light was contracted and completely concealed in every way, which we call emptiness of the light, yesh, and from this emptiness, so-called, there comes into being the created yesh, nivra, the created yesh, in a state of limitation. For it is even the smallest trace of the light were revealed, right? Meaning it was in complete removal of anything unlimited. Okay, a complete removal of anything unlimited. Okay, for it is even the smallest trace of the light will reveal. If something will be revealed from that unlimited, Ein Sof, it would be in a state of Ein Sof. Who would be in a state of Ein Sof? The creation would be in a state of Ein Sof. But Hashem didn't want the creation to be in a state of Ein Sof. And the new created, that he wouldn't be able to, the created, right, it wouldn't be limited and could not come into being as a limited being. But because the divine light is concealed completely, The key word here, divine light. Okay. And therefore a new light comes into being. Tolda. Right? That light, it's called the light of a result, meaning it's a tolda. It was that something that was created as a result of the concealment, as is known. Which is the revelation of the created being as a finite and bounded yesh. Okay, so what happens then? But this state of emptiness, it's not an absolute empty void, God forbid. It's the void of revelation. But rather, it is only a lack of revelation from the perspective of the receivers. Okay? But the essence of the lies dwell in complete fullness. Even with the limited space exactly as at the beginning without any change. And more so, he is the one who affects the contraction and concealment. The essence. So not only that the essence is voided and it's present, but the essence is the activator. He's the one who actually creates the tzimtzum. And he also the one who creates the limitation that is produced by the tzimtzum. Nivra, which is the creation of the finite yesh. Ein Sof, because he is Ein Sof. And because he's Ein Sof, he is capable of everything. And therefore he's able to limit and contract himself, and this is sufficient to understand. So what are we talking about? Let's go back, because it is one of the hardest chapters, because we could talk about the mashalim and how they work from today till tomorrow, but to take the mashal and apply to what are we talking about in godliness, that's where it's like, could become challenging for all of us. So what are we talking about? It that we needed to establish. One second. Okay.
So I think just to note that when it says here, the first line, nimshal mizeh lemala muvan b'inyan hashpa'ah, is that what we're doing is we're taking what we learned in the previous paragraph and applying it here. He's not doing that application for us exactly, but keep in mind what it is that you've just learned in paragraph 8. And apply it, bring it with you into an understanding of what's going on here. Okay, Mila.
Yes. So let's look at this two things, right? And this is the two things that he earlier mentioned about the sun. Now, I just want to make a disclaimer, right? Under no circumstances we're mentioning that the sun has, anything special, right? Other than being a creation, other than being a mashal. Okay, a limited mashal. Okay. But he mentioned something about the two things. Okay. Let's look back at the diagram. The spiritual shefa, right? When he brought the teacher and the student. Right? What was the issue there? He only illumination moves from hashpa'ah to Mekabel, not the essence itself. You see one limitation? The essence doesn't move, only the illumination. Hashpa'ah loses nothing, but must focus only on influencing at that moment. There's a limitation, number one. And why mashpia has this limitation is because the intellect in its source, inside the mashpia, is already a concrete limited seichel in a form of yesh. Therefore, it has a limitations while being transmitted. If in its source it's yesh, it cannot become ayin. Meaning, if it's in source, it has a limitations. It cannot be unlimited on execution. Just simple how Hashem created. Now, or Hashemish is different. Why is it? It can shine in two different windows and take two different shades, right? Meaning it has an aspect of being unlimited, right? It's nullified, batel in the source, in the body of the sun, and therefore has no limitations while shining. If I'm unlimited in my source, therefore I could be unlimited in my execution. It appears as a limited yesh only for the Mekabel, meaning that seeming limitation is only by the perceived receiver, okay? So remember these two things, right? In the source and how it's being executed. And that's exactly what's happening in the text right now. So let's look at it, right? First, okay, the drawing down is from a level that is ayin. Oh, it's meaning the light of creation comes from a place of ayin. Meaning there's absolutely nothing going on there. It's very hard for us to understand, but it's literally nothing. Okay? Now, meaning the level of divine light that radiates, which is ayin and zero. Okay? Because it includes and nullifies within the essence, meaning it's completely in the essence. Now, the way we see things, the way we see it because we are already after the creation. Okay, nobody actually knows what is going on there before the creation. Before the creation, we are oblivious in our consciousness because we have no idea. Hashem could have created a totally different world, and we learned that before. But for some reason, he decided, like, okay, that's how he wants. That's the system he chooses. Okay, so now within that system, we don't know what happened. What's before Bereshis? We have no idea. Okay, now, because it's coming from before the Bereshis, okay, therefore it has that unlimited possibility. And soon we're going to see what that unlimited possibility is. Meaning, now the second is, right, that even the light and the radiance were contracted. So even there was a tzimtzum. So now what Hashem actually did, okay, he created a vacuum in a way. Okay, we call it, chalal rikan, they call it, right? He calls it rikanut ha'or, the emptiness of the light. What does this mean, the emptiness of the light? And he says over here, it's not empty from the presence of God. And that's where many people make a mistake. I'm talking many big people make mistakes. Okay, so leave us alone. So that's what we just need to take it as a fact. Okay, that it's not emptiness of the presence of God. Okay, it's emptiness of the revelation of God. So Hashem decided, how in the world am I going to create a physical, limited cup with a T? Okay, so he decided, I have a plan. And that plan is going to be X, Y, and Z, which is what? I'm going to create a void of my revelation. And inside that void, okay, I'm going to create a world. But the trick is, it's not a complete void of his presence. It's the void of his revelation. Get it? That's the trick. Okay, so for that reason, there's absolutely no corner without Hashem's essence being there. Because look exactly what he says over here. Okay. Okay. But the essence of the light dwells in complete fullness. Now he says, he adds a different story. He says, and why in the world he is capable of doing this? How can he create? One sec. So the essence of the light dwells in complete fullness, right? Even with a limited space, meaning the beauty of it, the beauty of Hashem's unlimitedness actually shines in him creating the limited beings. And that's what he's trying to say, is that so the tzimtzum is the piece of art from Hashem. Okay, so how can you contract yourself to such an extent that you could create a thing with a consciousness that's completely separate from awareness of God? That's the beautiful piece of creation. If you create a stone, okay, a stone, what's a big deal? But to create a live human being that has full-scale IQ, that has feelings, everything, and feels completely separate from the very essence, this is the art piece of Hashem. And why he's able to do this, to create such a thing. He's able to create such a thing because of one simple reason. He's called Yachol. Because of his unlimitedness. He's capable of creating anything what he wants, including limited beings. Okay, so now this whole piece really shifts the whole understanding of tzimtzum. Viewing it as something negative, right? Viewing it as like, oh my gosh, Hashem concealed himself. And he says, he is concealing himself. And he's concealing himself, helem, achar helem, okay, etc., etc. But at the same time, which power of Hashem within him is creating this limitedness, and this concealment is the essence of God. So that's exactly what it says. And moreover, he's the one who affects the contraction and concealment, and also the limitation that is produced by the tzimtzum, which is the creation of the finite yesh. For since he is Ein Sof, so you could do that. So now, what does that help us? Because tzimtzum is not kipshutei. That's what means tzimtzum is not kipshutei. Can you believe what a mercy that was? Because Hashem could have chosen a different story. Hashem could have said, you know what, I'm contracting myself. There is no Hashem. The physicality of this world is actually an obstacle to me. It actually conceals me in real sense. And that's what many religions do believe. And also different, different schools of thought in Judaism believe in that as well. Okay? So here comes Chassidus and illuminates this whole new understanding that is literally only Chassidus Chabad follows with this. Okay? I believe other Chassiduses also, but, specifically highlighted by the Alter Rebbe. And that's where the whole opposition started, is when the Alter Rebbe started revealing these things. They were like, okay, wait a second, this is really taking it too far. But he wasn't taking it too far. He was actually describing the actual reality based on early Mekabel, which was Arizal and Reb Chaim Vital specifically. Okay, from the Talmidim of Arizal. Okay, so that, what does it tell us? What am I gaining from tzimtzum kipshute and not kipshute? What am I gaining from this? In the modern language, in the language that I hear so much in my, my youngsters, who cares? Why this piece of information is so important? Because if it would be tzimtzum kipshute, okay, the creation can never reach God. Do you understand? Never. There is no way back. Okay, you can't go back. That's it. You created being, and this is who you are. You are a complete separateness from the divinity. And whatever falls, I don't know, 2 cents from upper worlds will trickle down. Okay. Now, by Hashem's divine mercy, Hashem didn't do tzimtzum kipshute, so we could actually climb up. Okay? Because it's only for the Mekabel, it seems to be that way. What does this mean? If I see my light as green all the time, okay, what can I do to see a true light? If it's tzimtzum not kipshutei. What can I do? I could go out of my house. Or I could go to Naria's house, right? I could go to somebody else's house. Okay, meaning I could get out of my limitation and see the light for its own sake. That's the beauty. That's what tzimtzum cannot keep truth allows. Meaning it's a seeming tzimtzum, but if you look deeper, there is no tzimtzum. You'll find God there. In the same tzimtzum itself, you'll find God. And that's why we see something really unusual, that the Yidden in Golus thrive. How could you say such a thing? Because Hashem is in that Golus. The Golus was created by Hashem. It's not some kind of outside force, that, I don't know, took autonomy and created the Golus. Hashem is in that Golus. His essence is there. So that's why Yidden, throughout all the Goluses that we had, enough already, right? We're able to connect to the essence of God, and we see fresh stories from tunnels of Gaza. What happened there? Right? So yeah, these hostages, unfortunately, you don't know, if they, we have to be sensitive here, right? But they were put in the situations, okay, where they were able to look beyond the tzimtzum that they were experiencing on the personal level. And that's what every single Jew actually capable of doing. Okay, and why is it we are capable of doing? Because of two things. One, that the contraction is not real contraction of the light. The tzimtzum is not a real tzimtzum, because it's only legabe Mekabel. And number two, we have the reality of our essence, okay, is the consciousness from before the tzimtzum as well. So if you want to know what's before the tzimtzum, what is there that we can touch that's before the tzimtzum is our essence, because our essence is one with the essence of God. So that's why we could talk. There is a level of us that could talk and is actually talking, not just can talk, actually has experience, panim el panim, face to face with God, with the essence of God himself from before the tzimtzum. And that's what we tap into, do tshuva. This is the level that we tap into, rewrite our narrative, to fix our past, to project on our future, and all these fancy esoteric things we are capable of doing is because of this essence. That's actually present in every detail of creation. That's what we're reading in this paragraph. And B'ezrat Hashem will be continuing in paragraph 10.
Mila, there's something that I don't understand here. Not just one thing, but in my mind, I can understand that there can be a tzimtzum in the light, because light is revelation. It's not the essence. There's atzmos, and there's atzmos or Ein Sof. There's or Ein Sof, which means it's what's coming out of Hashem. So I could understand that there's a tzimtzum in the light, meaning in the revelation, and therefore it would be from the perspective of the Mekabel. But here he says, Aval etzem ha'or, the essence of the light, dwells in complete fullness, which means it seems to be saying that there's not a tzimtzum in the light.
In the etzem of the light, which is the etzem himself.
So
Atzmut or Ein Sof, that's what he's saying.
So there's a difference between or Ein Sof and atzmos or Ein Sof?
Oh, for sure.
But is there a difference between atzmos or Ein Sof and atzmos?
Pretty much, yeah. In chapter 10, when he talks about the three levels before the tzimtzum, right? It's yochid, echad, and kadma, right? So the yochid is atzmut or Ein Sof. But then there is before yochid.
Okay.
It's not even Ein Sof It's not entchila. It's something which we have no idea what that is.
Okay,
right?
so
It's what's before oneg.
Right.
It's you can't even say whatever it is, because whatever you'll say, it will be a limitation already. It will be something about,
Yeah. Okay. I was also wondering if do you want to close the text and we can just as you were reading, I was thinking that perhaps one could, this is what came up for me, like the idea of, that it's only according to the Mekabel that there's a tzimtzum, really. And I was wondering if you can compare it to, just to make it more personal, like when you want a child to do something on their own in order to grow, that perhaps, even say, for example, when the child is learning to walk, that you hold their hands and then you let their hands go. So from the perspective of the child, I mean, there they can see you, but just to see the marshal, that they feel like they're alone, that you've withdrawn yourself in a sense so that they can walk on their own, they can take the next step, but you're present there. So I was just thinking of it in terms of, whether that mashal can work in some ways that we can understand it more personally in ways that we have a tzimtzum that from the child, and the child experiences it as our absence, but really we're present. It's just that they perceive an absence. I'm saying it more as a question, whether you can look there for a mashal of our own experience of having a tzimtzum, and it's only it's only in relation to the Mekabel, not in actual fact.
It's hard because I think we mainly operate from a tzimtzum perspective, how can we be there but not be there? Do you know what I mean? Because in our consciousness, we do see, we see ourselves as separate beings. And I think this is, from meaning anything what we interact with will project that limited perception of ourselves. I don't know if I'm answering it, but yeah, I mean, you gave a good marshal, for example, a dogma, us, allowing our children to grow is really allowing, it's like Hashem concealing himself so we can, grow. Now, why he wants that, I think that's another question. He derives pleasure from that. I think we all derive pleasure from normal parents. I will, underline that. Okay, normal parents derive pleasure from seeing their kids' independence. Okay, although there are, some interesting parents that, want that constant, control and to monitor and stuff like that. But I think we're a little bit, maybe we're jumping too ahead into wanting to understand how that, how that works. Yeah. Because the next paragraph, he's really developing that. This is like, I would say, if anybody needs a mashal for chachma, this is chachma. What he just said in the paragraph number 9. He's just giving us a very, very bitter concentrate. Right? And then we're going to be pouring a little bit, water and making ourselves a nice tea. It's like a tea essence, and we're going to make many, many cups of tea from what he just said. Okay. This is, I would say, a formula, okay, that becomes the, the topic of many, many, many mamarim. Like this Ein Sof of how many mamarim were really based off these concepts. And these concepts, branch out. What we're just learning, it's branch out. And that's, I would say, this is the beginning of the taste of Shar Yichud. This is like a real Shar Yichud beginning. All what was up until now, it's like toys compared to this, right? That was like more of a preparatory work. We could call it, there's a warm-up in a workout, and then there's actual workout, right? Like you can't expect your muscles to be as flexible if you don't warm them up. Okay, so you warm up, and this is a real exercise. Okay, so it's not a warm up anymore. So up until this point, it was a nice warm up, and let's first discuss this before we discuss this. We had that, right? It was like a lot of frustrating points. It's like, let's first me tell you about this, and then we're gonna learn about that. But before I will tell you that, I'll tell you that first. And you would be like, okay, wait a second. What are we talking about? So this is it. Was the first, take a deep breath now. Now I'm telling you, okay, this is what he's telling us, right? And this is, for me, to be honest, this is the most exciting part, because that shows how Hashem is truly not hiding from our lives. And at any given point, at any given minute, we can connect to this essence. That's just for me personally, where I feel very excited about this. And that we have access to something so unlimited as God, a direct access. It's like all what we need to do is just to become aware that we are in this embrace of Hashem on a constant basis. And Hashem is so not limited, to the point that it could give every single one of us undivided essence to essence attention. And that's what he keeps doing. That's why we are still alive. That's why we are still, able to think, breathe, and everything else what we do. It's like this is like, I don't know, for me, it's just like this fabulous piece of information. And it always, every time I come to these type of things, it's like, wow. Whatever problems we have, they're not so heavy anymore, because we could connect and we could communicate. And tzimtzum is not kipshutis. I think this is the most biggest gift that Chassidus gave masses. This awareness, this knowledge.
So are there any questions, specific questions? I mean, it's, as Mila is saying, it's really something that you need to kind of sit with and try and, go over that paragraph. The next paragraph also continues the same theme a little bit. So it will open it up. Perhaps you could say this is a little bit derech chalal, and you'll go more into pratim.
Exactly, yes. It's definitely derech chalal, and moreover, we're going to answer the questions of the philosophers, finally. Whenever I learned about these philosophers, I'm like, who are these people? Can we have names?
It's us.
And I guess it's us. Yeah, it's us. I'm like, it's us. That's why there are no names. Is this Aristotle? Who is he talking about? It's not, who are these philosophers?
Socrates.
Yeah.
But I have a comment, and when Maria asked that first question, like the philosopher's question, like, how is this possible? Okay, for Hashem to sustain the world and all of that. So my answer is, it's not possible. But Hashem does the impossible every single moment. And so this is really beautiful, just delving into it and seeing how it really is possible, and just connecting with that the etzem of Hashem. However, I can't live every moment of my life thinking about this, but just that we know it's there. But in my mind, like, we know that the impossible is possible. So it reminds me of a story that I heard yesterday. I think it was told in connection to Tes Kislev, and it was about around the time where the Tanya was just being distributed in forms of like small pamphlets, and the Rebbe wanted it to be
he assigned the task to certain bachrim to pull it together, and there was a deadline for it. I think the deadline was Chav Kislev, and so the person was telling the story how the bachrim worked day and night, and how people brought the mother bought food to 770 because they were just working so hard. It was about working as an eved for Hashem. And in the end, when they completed it, even days before, the Rebbe actually said that I didn't think it was possible for them to do it, and they did it. But really, the Rebbe was saying, here, I know it's not possible, but I know it's impossible, but the impossible is possible.
Wow. That's so special. I'm so happy for the Bahram. As you were telling the story, I was thinking, oh my gosh, did they disappoint or not? That was my critic.
So I heard this from a Shapiro, and it was her father-in-law was the Bacher.
Oh wow, that's so beautiful. It's amazing because you see, it's like, anyway, I remember I promised you a story. Okay, so there was a chassid of the Mittel Rebbe. His name was Yitzchak Moshe. And he was an amazing, amazing chassid. It was a very, very special chassid, and happened to be that he was also a tutor for Ruzhin Rebbe's children. Okay, so he was not Chaim Yankel. It was like a very nice, very nice, meaning who would Ruzhin Rebbe, hire as a malamed for his kids? So there was an agreement with the Ruzhin Rebbe that he would only travel for Yomim Tovim to the Rebbe. Okay? He was not allowed to travel to the Mittel Rebbe whenever he pleased to go. And this Yitzchak Moshe decides, it came like about a Yom Tov, and he travels. Now, I don't know which Yom Tov that was, so therefore I'm not going to say which Yom Tov that was, okay? So he travels to the Rebbe, to the Mittel Rebbe, and as there was a minhag after visiting the Rebbe, on the way back, they would go and stop, and there was a hira of the Mittel Rebbe that they would go, and they would actually have to be mechazer, the maimer of the Rebbe. It was good. Why not? And he really loved it, despite the fact that Mittel Rebbe's ma'amorim would be very, very long and difficult, and so on and so forth. He made a point that when he would go back, he would tell us Ba'ala Golam to actually stop by every single village where the Yidden lived, and he was mechazer siddhas there of the Rebbe. That's it. One day, on one of those journeys, he stopped by a city which is called Opta. He had no idea. He enters a shul, it's a very nice shul, and he stops, as was his custom, and he says Chassidus. Okay. What could go wrong? Apparently, this was the shul of Opta Rav. And apparently, he didn't like Mittel Rebbe so much. So when he came out, or when he came in to the shul, and he saw this younger man saying Chassidus, okay, he got so furious. He's like, what? In my own shul, you're going to come in and you're going to say Chassidus? So he cursed the guy. He said, and you should not live until next year. So now, being a true chassid, he felt himself, who is this guy? He cannot do anything to me. I'm a chassid of my Rebbe. I belong to my Rebbe. He didn't take it seriously. So he travels home, and everything is beautiful. He goes and continues being a malamed for the Ruzhin Rebbe's kids. Beautiful. After a while, he starts seeing that his feet start swelling. He said, big deal. He was a young guy. Nothing to worry about. And he continued his teachings. Then his conditions worsens and worsens. And he realizes that something serious is going on. He goes to a doctor. And the doctor looks at him and says, you know what? This is very strange. I hear your concerns. I see how you look. but I cannot find any medical condition in your body that would cause such symptoms. It's like, I can't really help you. I cannot prescribe you medicine for something that I don't see that you're having an issue. And he realized that it has something to do with that curse, that he was cursed. And his condition started so deteriorating that he couldn't really see himself doing anything. He couldn't even teach the kids anymore. So he decides that he's going to go to Ruzhner Rebbe and he's going to tell him that, okay, I need to travel to my Rebbe. Just at that moment, a lady comes over to him and says to him, I have this situation that I really, really, really need you to go and travel to your Rebbe. And she tells the story, blah, blah, blah. And, please, travel to the Rebbe. And etc. So he felt that, okay, that's hashgacha pratis. And he goes to Ruzhner Rebbe and he tells him that, hey, look at me. I cannot even teach your kids. I really need to see the Rebbe. And yeah. And I really need to see the Rebbe. And something really incredible. What's going on, Mr. Minute? Oh, you're talking. Okay, so here we go. 1 second.
Hi. So you got the smile in your pocket?
Here we go. Can you please step outside?
So got.
Why? Okay. Close the door, please. Thank you. So, and then that's it. He goes to the Rebbe. He's on the way. The Ruzhner Rebbe gives him permission. So he goes to the Rebbe and, with a horse and wagon and so on and so forth. And he feels like with every single hour that passes, he is passing on. Okay. It's like, whoa. And all of a sudden they see a beggar on the road. Okay. And all of a sudden the beggar makes a motion that he wants to get on a wagon. So the Balagola looks at Yitzchak Moshe and tells him, like, should we take him? And Yitzchak Moshe grows suspicious about this beggar. He says, well, that's very strange. He did not stop the Agala that was ahead of us. Why is he stopping specifically our carriage? He said, you should move on. So it was a very good Balagala. So he tries to maneuver, but then he sees the beggar is really standing in the middle of the road and tries to prevent the carriage from going on. So they realized that it was a very interesting beggar. And Balagala, maneuvers out, and he continues on his road. Now, to Yitzchak Moshe's bewilderment, when he looks back and he sees this beggar actually running as fast as he can to catch up to the Balagala. So the race began. This guy completely freaked out. He told the driver to drive even faster. And this beggar actually was able to jump on the carriage. So, and Yitzchak Moshe whacked him with a log of wood that was on the carriage. The guy falls out. And they arrive into Lubavitch. This guy is like, okay, I have to see the Rebbe ASAP. Something is going on. He goes into the Rebbe, and he tells him that something very serious is going on with him, and about the curse of the Opterav. So the Rebbe's face grows very, very serious. And then he asks him if he knew that this shul was Opterav's shul. He said, no, he had no idea. It was not written anywhere. He answered that nobody told him. So I said, okay. So when Opterav cursed him, was he in any way disrespectful in return of this? And he said, no. He didn't even take it very seriously because he, it wasn't serious. And he said, okay. So then he said, you know what? you're gonna live this year, meaning you're gonna finish this year. Remember, the curse was that he's not gonna finish the year. Okay, so the Mittel Rebbe tells him, well, you'll finish this year. Now Yitzchak Moshe looks at the Mittel Rebbe, was like, and that's it. I mean, he was a young man. He was like, so he didn't say Ami. So he was looking at the Rebbe like, that's all what you're giving me? And the Rebbe looked at him and he said, he saw that he wasn't satisfied with the brach. He said, you know what? You're going to outlive the up to Rav. Well, that wasn't satisfying for Yitzchak Moshe also, because up to Rav was quite an old man. And he was like looking at the Rebbe, was not ready to receive this bracha. So the Rebbe looked at him back and he said, you know what? You're going to outlive the children of up to Rav. And at that moment, Yitzchak Moshe figured that it's an Eis Ratzah. Okay, something is changing here, right? So he looked at the Rebbe, also wasn't masking. So Rebbe looked at him and said, oh, you want to outlive the grandchildren also? Said, okay, so you outlive the grandchildren also. And by that time, the guy said, Amen. Okay, and he came out and he was very, very happy. Obviously, went to dancing and so on and so forth. He goes back to his home, completely healthy, completely healed. He continues being the tutor of the Ruzhner Rebbe. Everything is beautiful. And he literally lived an exceptionally long life. Moreover, he also was very, very strong. That even in 102, how long he lived, he used to pick up very heavy logs of wood and used to do all kinds of, physical labor. At one point, he gathers all his children and grandchildren to come over. And then he says, okay, guys, that's it. I'm soon going to pass away. And like his grandchildren and children looking at him, they're already older than, they didn't have the power that he used to have, because they also grew old, right? If he's like, I don't know, 120, they probably already 100 and so on. So they were very surprised. Like, why would he think that he's going to pass away? So he said that he learned that the last grandchild of the Upta Rav passed away. And he said also, when he was going and he was fixing one of his fences, he saw that that beggar was trying to climb over one of the fences. So he recognized him. He said that, he said, that beggar is Malach HaMavis, and therefore I don't want to give him my soul. He's coming for my soul already. Said, I'm connected with the Rebbe. I want to give it to the Rebbeim. And that's it. And he laid on a bed and he passed away. He said Shema and he passed away. So when I heard the story, I mean, it's a very spooky story to tell a child, especially the part with the beggar and all that, that's, But then I thought to myself, like, isn't it, this is amazing? Like, I feel that this is really a chassid and a Rebbe relationship in real life motion, I mean, like, it's, the Rebbe is giving you're going to live up until this year. I mean, are you going to say no? I mean, you're going to outlive the Apta Rav. You're going to say no. And it's amazing that, so then the question is, why didn't the Mittel Rebbe Lechatchila told him, oh, you're going to outlive the grandchildren of, the Apta Rav? And I guess there's an inyan of Mekabel asking. It's not just, it's given from above and we accepting it, but we actually know what we want. I mean, this Yitzchak Moshe knew exactly what he wants in life, right? He knew exactly what he wants. He knew exactly what kind of life he wants to live. And he asked for it. And in a way, was maybe not like, like, oh, really? I mean, you're going to look at the Rebbe and you ask for more. If you need more, you ask for more. And for me, it's just like, this beautiful thing, because that's actually illustrated that tzimtzum is not kipshute. When you're given to live up until the end of the year, you understand that this is not the final verdict. You could ask for more. And then, even more and even more. And that shows, I think, the emunah in emunah in tzaddikim, understanding, it's like when the oil by this, the wife of Ovadia, in this famous piece in Haftarah ends. If you look at the psukim, is the oil will stop pouring when there will be no more kalim. Do you know what I mean? Like she asked her son, "Where's the keli?" And then he tells her, "Oh, well, that was the last one," and that's where the oil stopped pouring. Is whatever the limit we put in our mind, this will become the limit. And I'm thinking to myself, if he would be like, the grandchildren, I'm sure that there was, if he would say grandchildren, it probably would be that, he himself said, okay, I'm asking for too much by now. Yeah. So we should never, we should never stop asking, because this is the relationship. In Shemona Esrei, that's all what we do. We ask, give me this and give me that and give me the other. Because truly, when we recognize that everything what we have actually comes from that source, this unlimited source, so then that's the only place to ask. Where else we should ask?
Oh, Mila, I love what you're saying. I think, though, it's human nature, or maybe my nature, that you don't want to ask for too much because you don't want to be disappointed.
But why you would be disappointed?
Because if you're asking for the impossible, or what you thought was impossible, then and do you understand what I'm saying? I'm saying
no, I
believe what you're saying, but then the philosopher part of me is saying don't ask for too much, because you want to be satisfied with what you get, and you might not get everything you ask for. You might not get to live to 102 or whatever.
I think it really depends where we ask from. Sometimes we ask from our head, like it's an external asking. But when we ask from a really deep place, and sometimes that asking isn't even necessarily vocalized, it's a deep, deep yearning, then we usually see it fulfilled very quickly.
So if you have a deep yearning, one could translate that into an actual asking, an actual tefillah? Or is it better to let it just be a deep yearning? And Hashem will see that too.
Nechama. Why not?
Why not formulate it into a request?
No, but why not ask? Like, why not ask? A person has a need. Who else is he supposed to ask? Why he has this need? Why he has that desire? It's connected to his essence of his neshama. It's connected to his shlichus. That's what he needs. He needs to be given this. Period. What a question.
Okay.
And for that, he needs to ask, because you need to know who to ask. You need to know who is the source of all the blessings.
We need to know where it comes from.
Source, exactly. But you see, it's like a lot of times we impose our own inferiority complexes in the ask. Like, maybe I'm asking too much. Who is saying that? Who is saying that? Hashem, you think? Hashem wants us to live forever. Who is putting that limit? Hashem is not putting that limit.
Wait.
We put that limit.
If Hashem wants us to live, now this is the philosopher talking, okay? If Hashem wants us to last forever, then why did he create the Malach HaMavis?
For us to say no to him.
What was that?
Because with freedom of choice, Hashem doesn't want to impose. He wants us ubecharta b'chaim. Like this guy said, you know what? I'm not giving my life to this Malach HaMavis. I'm dying on my own. But imagine, I mean, this is such a courageous personality. I want to learn more about this chassid. He was cracking me up when I was reading the story. I was like, wow, this is amazing. You know, I personally was like, wow, this is great. This is such a beautiful attitude.
How did he know that was the Malcham Avis?
Well, he recognized the bag. I mean, first of all, the whole scenario. I mean, I didn't go more into details about it, but the guy was like running and he was like, spooky. He was running at the speed of a carriage. I mean, how many people who run? There's no human being who could run that fast.
I was thinking it could have been a malach that was giving him an opportunity to do a mitzvah, and that would save him. That was the scenario I had in my mind.
Listen, I think he was following his gut reaction, and he was correct.
Yeah.
Like, okay, get off my carriage. I'm going to my Rebbe. Bye. He didn't think twice and just wagged the guy out of his carriage. He realized that it was something interesting, unwanted objects.
Okay. I get what I'm going to say is not to diminish the message of the story, but there's a part of the story that is very disturbing to me that I don't understand, is how can somebody in the level of the Aptarav curse somebody for saying Chassidus? Like, what's that about?
I don't know.
And curse them to die.
I
don't
know. I agree with you. It's something, but it's a true story. It's something to look into. I really don't know.
But I think that we don't really have, at least for myself, don't have a full concept of what a misnagid is, because I don't believe
his Aptara was a misnagid. I think it was a chassid.
Probably Chassidic.
Yeah, he is a Chassidic dynasty who is Aptarab. I never looked into him. To be honest, I just know this encounter about this Aptarab. So,
but if he was, I mean, a misnagid in a generic sense, he was against. He was in opposition.
I mean, listen, let's not go far. When there was an opposition against the Rebbe's writing Tanya, okay, the two Rebbes that came to prevent the Rebbe from printing it or something like that. This is a Mittel Rebbe saying. They cursed Reb Moshe, the Alter Rebbe's son. Okay, and for that reason, he had, consequences. Now, what did Reb Moshe do? He was not involved with them. He wasn't teaching Chassidus in their shuls. It's unfortunately, it's a kapeda of a tzaddik is,
But what I'm saying is, I don't know. I don't think this kind of opposition exists now, or we can see, and not in my lifetime. I mean, I might have said this before. I remember, like years ago, when my husband used to pick up bachrim who would sneak out of yeshivas, like the Mir Yeshiva and Torah Vadas, so they could go somewhere and learn Tanya. My husband was the driver, and now everybody knows what Tanya is. I mean, Chassidus is all over the place. So we're not dealing with that now. There's not that kind of opposition. I think maybe more the opposition is within us.
Right. So I looked it up now. The Aptarav was actually a chassid. He's one of the greatest Hasidic Rebbe of early generations, a direct student of the Baal Shem Tov disciples.
He studied under Reb Elimelech of Lezench.
Yeah, he studied and under Reb Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev and Reb Zusha of Anopoli. So he was.
That's where it's hard.
So that's sibling rivalry.
We don't know. What is the source of the story? Sarah Ginsburg says, for me, that's like it's a difficult, like, since that's the point on which everything else comes out, it's difficult to understand the story.
So, but Naria, it should bother us. How could you come to peace with something like that? It wasn't good.
No, I'm not saying I'm coming to peace with it. I'm saying
how could it have happened?
Right. But anyway, there's gam v'gam. So I think we should.
I guess even in tzaddikim there are different awarenesses. And I think it's like, how can the students of Rabbi Akiva,
Yes, yeah, thought the same
I mean,
thing.
come on, like, Amar Rabbi Akiva v'afta l'recha kamocha, right? That was his main theme.
So
I mean, come on,
it was about
24,000
respect.
of them.
It was about
It's like,
respecting each other for their differences.
I think it's getting stuck on just my way type of thing. It's like, that's how I see reality. Therefore, like, everybody else should be seeing that reality. But I don't think it's coming from that immature place. But I think Badakus, on a very refined way, this is the thing. And they just couldn't understand how different people could have, different things, and the Torah could be, allowing that, having that aspect, shivin panim l'Torah, And I think here is like, I mean, you desecrating Chassidus by revealing it to masses. They don't know how to handle it. Okay, look, who knows what could happen from it, and probably maybe something did happen from it, but the Alter Rebbe really felt that the gain is what I'm looking at. It's true that something could have happened, and I think that whole opposition was also caused by a piece of Chassidus flying through the chimney. I don't know if you know that story. And it's becoming and it's like landed on the floor, and people felt like it was really inappropriate, and that was because of Alter Rebbe's really spreading it out, publishing it. It was bechlal, like, breaking paradigms, because it was usually spoken, and only to select. And now you're just walking around. Every Chaim Yankel is going to know these type of secrets. Who knows what they're going to do with it? So that was the fear.
When I go to the
Okay.
library.
So,
When I go to the library.
I guess the effect of disappointment of the tzaddik brought about this unwanted. Also with Reb Hillel, for example, he was also cursed that he will be, laying with the wood on top of his face, meaning he would die.
So what happened to the Apterav after that? You said he was already old.
No, I guess no. The guy outlived his grandchildren. So
no. But what I'm thinking of the Apterav who made the curse. What happened to him?
I don't think, because you see, that's the beauty of Chassidus, is that the Mittel Rebbe was more focusing on his Chassid versus worrying about what's going to happen to Apterav. So, well, let Hashem deal with this.
Right.
Like, I need to save my chassid. That's it. I'm going to reveal the godliness for my chassid because he didn't do anything wrong, and he was doing what I told him to do, and he got himself into this trouble. So I'm going to worry about how to save him. Mommy. So I'm not going to worry about what happens to the Apterav. Apterav could take care of himself.
Mom, can I go to the library?
So I guess that's.
Okay.
But again, let us focus more on, what happened to the chassid and the brachas he was able to, really, flourish and, become even stronger. So through this difficulty that he encountered, right, he actually lived more than what he was supposed to live, right? And that's, I think, the beauty of it. You see how our mind takes us to.
So it's almost like he turned the curse into a bracha.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it. Like, and for me, it's just like the fact that he asked for more. That's, the part, and he didn't feel ashamed because he needed more. He did good things with his years.
Mama, can I go to the library?
Yeah. So he did amazing things with his years, and that was the beauty of it. I think it's like, wow. Okay. I love you all.
Thank you, everybody. And we
hope. Mila, please remember to figure out when we're going to have a Farbrengen.
I know we need to. That would be amazing. But I guess
Whenever.
the fourth day would be amazing if we could get together.